Hi, I'm Mike Dilk and you're listening to the Relax Back UK show, the show that explores all kinds of health topics relevant to you, your family and your friends. Each week I talk to expert guests from a range of backgrounds to inform and entertain you. So please do join the Relax Back UK family and stay tuned.
Hi, and thank you for joining me on the Relax Back UK show. The first topic this week is social responsibility, particularly in the area of cancer and treatment across the whole of society.
We see it as a social responsibility to also address some parts of the wider the wider issues in the healthcare system, and one of those issues is certainly inequalities in healthcare, and especially specifically in cancer care. And as we see ourselves as a leader in cancer therapeutics, it's one part where we can probably contribute expertise, data, etc. to the mix to solve that wider issue.
My guest is Dr. Robert Braun from pharmaceutical company Bristol Myers Squibb. Then, one reason I really love doing this show is that I can get to be really nosy and glimpse into worlds of which I'm pretty much completely ignorant.
Me and my coach, we literally work out or look at different ways to improve my speed, such as where my hand position is, where my knees are. There's like so many specific technical elements that goes into being a sprinter that ultimately add up into allowing me to run fast.
Today I found out what it's like being an elite sprinter. What does the training consist of? What attention to detail is required? All kinds of things. I talked to sprinter Desiree Henry. So please do stay tuned for a great show. Thank you.
This show is cool!
My first guest is Dr. Robert Braun. He's very well qualified. He's head of haematology and oncology in the UK and Ireland with Bristol Myers Squibb. He's an MD, a medical doctor, and also an MBA. My first question was if I got all that correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So thanks very much for taking the time to chat this morning. And the topic is labelled the cancer ethnicity gap. So I guess the first question, Robert, really has to be, what is the cancer ethnicity gap?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on behalf of Bristol Myers Squibb today. And you obviously picked up on this topic because we launched today our Cancer Equals campaign. And that Cancer Equals campaign is something that seeks to understand and help address kind of possible reasons for inequalities in cancer diagnosis, cancer treatment, and there seems to be a gap in how different parts of the populations can access care.
Okay, so what's that from? Is there data to back that up? It's just that because you quite often hear about mistakes in with Caucasian people. The majority of and. You either see it on the news or hear it anecdotally, this cancer was missed, that cancer was missed. So it's not an uncommon story. So is there data to say that it's worse with ethnic minorities?
Yeah, well, we have just published a report called 1,000 Voices, Not One Report. And basically in this report, we questioned 1,000 people across the UK from different backgrounds, ethnic minority backgrounds, but also from from the rest of the population. And in that data set, you actually see a shocking number of around 7 months longer time from the first symptoms that people experience to the diagnosis of cancer in ethnic minorities.
7 months. Okay, so this is the difference, potentially the difference between life and death. 7 months is a long time when it comes to cancer diagnosis.
Yes, that's correct. Well, we can't infer from the data that we have the actual prognosis. But in cancer, as you are well aware, in earlier cancers are usually easier to treat. The treatment regimens are probably not as invasive, and you can potentially in earlier stages of cancer the rate of cure is much higher. So you could infer that if it takes a longer time to get from the first symptoms to diagnosis, that prognosis could be worse in this patient population.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on from that slightly sort of scary statistic to try and tease out what's going on. So is it I was thinking about this before we chatted. Is it kind of a deprivation gap? Not necessarily an ethnicity gap, but a deprivation gap, because this is a vast generalization, but there are, minority ethnic groups that do live in poorer areas. So is it kind of a postcode situation?
Yeah, well, there's probably a mixture of everything, and it's very hard to dial down to the specifics. What we have in our report is we have the ethnic minority background, but we also have social deprivation in there, and there's certainly a certain overlap between those two groups. I'm
sure this area can actually get very complicated very quickly. This is not straightforward.
Yes, it is, and especially if you dial down into subgroups and subgroups even more, than the significance of the data that we have, it gets probably less and less. So it's hard to really infer what the specific issue at hand is. But what we can see from the data, from the descriptive data that we have, is that there is a difference between ethnic minorities and the rest of the population, but also in terms of social deprivation. Yes.
Okay. So, well, let's look at maybe the social deprivation bit first. What could be happening there? I mean, if people might have jobs where it's just harder to take time off to go to the doctor.
Yeah, and you can actually see that in our report that I encourage everybody to look at cancerequals.co.uk if you want to get more into the details. But for certain groups, it's harder to take time off, as you said, because they have a financial impact. At least they report that themselves. They probably have a different education on cancer, a different view on what's possible for cancer. And that then leads them not wanting to bother the GP, not wanting to bother the health system. And that might also lead to later diagnosis.
Sure. Okay. So they're generally less well educated. So they might not know, for instance, that, I don't know, a mole or something that's changing shape could potentially be cancerous. It's just something that's going on. It won't necessarily ring alarm bells for these people because they're just not in that world.
It's more about them not wanting to bother the healthcare system. But
okay.
The question about health literacy is certainly something that multiple stakeholders across the healthcare system are trying to address with educational campaigns, disease awareness campaigns. But we also know from other research that those campaigns usually don't reach the more socially deprived groups or the ethnic minorities as much, and so that might contribute to the issue. Yes.
All right. Look, so we've looked a little bit of deprivation gap. What about social differences? I mean, we've hinted at those a little bit, but different people in different social groups will just look at going to the doctor in different ways. They might be a little resistant in going to the doctor. Is that something that you found?
Yeah, well, our report mainly pulls out on the differences between the ethnic minority groups versus the broader population. But there's also some data in there around the social deprivation, as you mentioned.
Okay, so what sort of social differences can crop up here? I've heard in some areas that actually, there's some level of shame involved going to the doctor to get a prostate exam or a breast exam, which, for a lot of people is a perfectly normal, very reasonable, sensible thing to do.
I would probably get into the area of speculation here because that's something that we don't draw out in our report. What our report is has basically two areas. One is the quantitative area that we already talked about. The other thing that we're trying to do is really dial down on individual patient stories, because every single patient has a different story, right? They have a different background, they have a different cultural background, they have a different education, they might have a different family history, and therefore awareness for cancer might be different. So it's usually not a matter of statistics, but an N equals 1, so that one person might have a completely different experience from his neighbor who probably has the same demographics.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that might make this next question a little harder to answer. But I'll ask it anyway. Is there a particular ethnicity that seems to affect more than others?
Yeah, well, the report that we have is not powered to look at differences between individual ethnicities.
Okay. All right. So, well, tell me a little bit more about the report and what it does cover then.
Yeah. So the report, as I said, the most shocking result is that we have a gap from first symptoms to a diagnosis of around 7 months. And what it then does, it dives into different patient stories. So we have 4 different patient stories that you see. We have also conducted interviews with 30 patients from different backgrounds, be it male, female, different geographies within the country. And we really tried to dig deeper into what their issues with cancer were. In the report itself, when you then look at the qualitative analysis, you will see things like the financial impact that it has on people's lives, their awareness of cancer, their kind of awareness of cancer treatment options, and all of that you will find in the report.
Okay, all right. Now, something that does interest me, and I know this was not a main push of your Cancer Equals report and the Cancer Equals scheme, but you know, you're a medical man, so I'd be intrigued to ask: could it also be a medical knowledge gap as well as a ethnicity gap and a deprivation gap? Could it be potentially a bit of a medical knowledge gap? And so the reason I say that is quite historical, really, I think, because most diagnosis and treatments, they are based on research that's mostly on a Caucasian type population. So can that be part of the mix, part of the problem potentially?
Yeah. You touch upon a very important topic. So there's what you mentioned is that there's inequalities in recruitment into clinical trials, and some of the trials historically have been done more in a Caucasian population, and so some of the data is more from Caucasian populations.
I think that summarizes perfectly what I was trying to say. Thank you. Yeah.
And the industry and Bristol Myers Squibb is very much aware of this. So what we are trying to do and what we're driving is actually more diversity in the recruitment into our clinical trials. That's something that's done across the industry, but also from regulator, there's a push to do this. One thing that we have recently, and you probably have seen the press release, is that we are trying to address cancer inequalities obviously around the world. And one thing that one project that we support is from Blood Cancer UK that tries to get more diversity into clinical trial recruitment. So yes, there is certainly an area of focus there, and that's certainly something that the industry and the wider healthcare industry should focus on.
I'm not a medical person, but my thoughts were kind of even more basic than that, with things like, you know, if you're talking about skin cancer and what a mole might look like when it changes, you know, if your skin is a different color, actually it might be harder to see this kind of thing. And it's, you know, a person might just not notice on themselves, and it could be harder for a doctor to notice.
Yeah, as a doctor, I find it hard to look individuals' patients' education, because cancer is something that you probably don't want to be involved with too much if you're healthy and if you're just going about your daily life. And if we expect everybody to be incredibly well educated about every disease area, that's probably something that's not feasible. But there is certainly an awareness gap, and I wouldn't really want to talk about that as a gap for the individual patient, right? Because that person probably has never had anything to do with somebody who had skin cancer, or isn't aware of it because it just doesn't happen in his immediate family or anything. But if you, for example, have a parent that has been affected by bowel cancer of some sort, then you might think earlier about symptoms that you have in your stomach Could that be something? So there is the individual situation is probably much more impactful than the broader educational gap.
Yeah, okay, all right. No, I get that. And we will come back, and I'm going to ask you more about the Cancer Equals scheme as well. But again, I did have another thought. So humour me, please. Genetic differences. I mean, so different ethnic groups will have different genetics, and that can have a bearing as well. I think, because actually, Afro-Caribbean men do suffer more from prostate cancer, and that is partly due to genetics. I think is that right?
Well, I don't have the data to hand for that specific therapeutic area at the moment. Sure. What's correct is that different cancers affect different ethnic minorities to a different extent, but that might also be due to geographical location. That might also be down to food consumption in certain areas of the world. So it's very hard to infer that as a general rule.
Again, it gets quite complicated quite quickly, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. No, actually, I do know that the CR UK recently launched a grand challenge. A lot of money. They invested $20 million to look at this problem. Most of that money actually went to the States, I think. So do you think we need some pretty serious investment into this kind of research and also change behaviour, which is more to do with your topic today in the UK? Do you think it needs a kind of a big injection of cash?
Well, as Bristol Myers Squibb, we're trying to do our part on this, right? We've launched the Cancer Equals campaign today, and part of what we're trying to do is to launch the Cancer Equals Coalition, so bring different stakeholders, so policymakers, experts, and patient advocates around the table to actually think about tangible solutions. And yes, probably part of the solution will be using money for projects, right? And it depends on the projects that
you guys could get involved. I mean, $20 million is like a bit of loose change down the back of the sofa for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're obviously asking a little bit of a provocative question here. I think
I am trying to poke you a little bit.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Look, as BMS, we see it as our duty to, as part of our social responsibility, to do something about this issue that we see in the data that we've presented today. But also, I think our main responsibility is around recruitment into clinical trials. That we make sure that in areas where you probably see more social deprivation, or in areas where you see more ethnic minorities, that we make sure that we place our trials in those centers as well.
Yeah, in the long run, that's going to is going to have to help with some of these questions for sure. All right, so let's just go back to the Cancer Equals scheme and report. There is a report which people can look at to find out more information if they are interested. Where is that?
You can find it on cancerequals.co.uk. Okay,
all right. And so that will have more details, and you suggested actually it's got more stories of individuals' stories of what people have got up to. Okay. And so this is part of the Bristol Myers Squibb. Well, tell me what? So Bristol Myers Squibb is a large pharmaceutical company, and what's the kind of interest that Bristol Myers Squibb has in this? What's in it for you, I guess?
Well, as I mentioned, I think we see it as a social responsibility to also address some parts of the wider the wider issues in the healthcare system, and one of those issues is certainly inequalities in healthcare, and specifically in cancer care. And as we see ourselves as a leader in cancer therapeutics, it's one part where we can probably contribute expertise, data, etc., to the mix to solve that wider issue.
Excellent. All right. So this going forward, you mentioned a very useful way of helping is to get more people from different ethnicities on trials. So that's a good thing. So are there any trials sort of in the pipeline that this is going to happen for, or is it more of a general kind of statement?
So as you mentioned, BMS is a very big pharmaceutical company that has multiple trials across therapeutic areas. And I can assure you that in all the clinical trials that are set up nowadays, this is one of the considerations that we have when we set our trials up.
Excellent. All right. So one final time, tell us the website that people can look at if they want to find out a bit more about this. Yeah, and how they, or even how they can get involved, but certainly how they can find out.
Yeah, it's cancerequals.co.uk, and you will find the report on that website, and you will also be able to contact us if you want to get involved.
Okay. And does that get involved mean if you want to get involved in a trial, actually?
No. So we are not trying to increase trial recruitment, etc., with this campaign. This is more about right now raising awareness, then bringing people to the table, and then find solutions for it. Excellent.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much indeed for chatting and for being such a great sport when I obviously tried to poke you a little bit. So
that's fair, Mike. Thank you so much.
Well, no, you were a great guest. So many thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Before we chat with Olympian sprinter Desiree Henry, I want to mention to you the Back App Chair. Are you or a loved one suffering from back pain, or are you worried about your posture? If so, the Back App Chair really has a very good chance of helping you. It promotes an excellent posture, keeps your core strength up, and has helped hundreds of people who suffer from the agonies of back pain. I'm sitting on one right now, and it really is absolutely fabulous. For more info, if you want to find out a bit more, have a look at my website, relaxbackuk.com. Now, on with chatting to sprinter Desiree Henry. She has really quite a good medal tally, so I asked her to tell me about her successes.
That's quite the introduction. Yes, I would say I'm a special sprinter. I am an Olympian, but I'm also an Olympic medalist. I'm an Olympic bronze medalist from the 2016 Olympics. So I competed in the 4x100 meter relay, and that's where I got my Olympic medal, aka my little baby.
Okay. And then you went on to do something in the World Athletics Champion.
Yes. So the following year at the World Athletics Championships in London at West Ham now Stadium, I competed there and came away with a silver medal. So I was able to improve and go from the bronze to the silver. So it's a nice medal tally so far.
Brilliant. I bet that was fun. Did you have a lot of family and friends cheering you on, rooting for you?
Exactly that. My mum was in the stands. My dad was there. It was an emotional one. I think I actually shed a few tears after.
Did your mum and dad cry?
It was me that cried, if anything. That was it. That was me. I needed to stay strong, but I've got some work to do there.
Okay. Right. So what happened next then? You had some difficulties.
Yes. Yeah. I think difficulties to say in an easy way, it was a mixture of things. I had quite a few injuries. So I actually had to have my meniscus repaired. So that's my knee. And then another thing called a popliteus. I also had to have that repaired, which is another area behind my knee. And these were all injuries that I actually had whilst I was on the track. So whilst I was, running in that Olympic team, running at the World Championships, they were all underlining things, but it just got to the point where I just thought I've really got to get this fixed because I'm in way too much pain.
Wow. And are those injuries that kind of affect sprinters? Are they a typical thing to go wrong for a sprinter?
Yeah, most definitely. Usually it's more muscular stuff, such as your hamstrings, just at the speed that we're going. But also it's really common to have joint pain. Despite us not being in a contact sport, we are putting so much force into the ground and just putting a lot of pressure onto our knees, etc. And I think my knees have just kind of had enough.
But you turned it around. You got the operations,
yes,
and you're now back training, and you're on track for the Olympics in a couple of months' time.
Exactly.
When do you know if you're really going to be in it, or do you know yet?
No, I don't know yet. So the sport of athletics, our selection is actually really close to the games, just to ensure that the ones that are going are literally 100% ready. So next month, I actually have my trials in Manchester, and that's the real deciding factor as to if I'm going to be making my second Olympic team or not. So of course, that's where my hopes and focus is right now.
Okay. Right. Well, look, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Now, this being an elite athlete and sprinting is just not my world at all. So probably most people don't really kind of get what you go through. Give us a sort of a typical day. Just how much training do you do? What is your training regime? I saw a video of you in the gym, which looked a bit scary, I got to say, but tell us what you get up to on a regular day.
Yeah, so as a sprinter, my base, or what I like to train, is everything to do with power and speed. So a usual training session for me would be, we start about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then it's all fast running essentially. But because, as you guys may have seen in sprint races, people win just by so close at the finish line, me and my coach, we literally work out or look at different ways to improve my speed, such as where my hand position is, where my knees are. There's like so many specific technical elements that goes into being a sprinter that ultimately add up into allowing me to run fast. And then after all of that, then I have my gym session. So like the video you saw, it's just lifting essentially heavy weights, but moving them at a fast speed, just to be able to create that fast kind of power and get those fast twitch fiber muscles activated.
So how many hours in the day are you doing that? You say you start at 8:30, you finish by lunchtime, then you knock off.
I wish that's a dream of mine. So even yesterday, I didn't leave the training center till about 5:30, 6 p.m. in the evening, just because it is that long, that technical, and there's a lot that goes into it. So yeah, a lunchtime break, I don't even think we even have that. It's just a moment to quickly have a protein shake mid-session, and then we're on to the next exercise.
So when you're done at the end of the day,
yes.
do you exercise till you're fit to drop every day?
It pretty much feels like it. Well, I do have a sausage dog always waiting for me when I get home. So then I've got to take care of him. So it's getting home, putting on his coat, especially in this British weather, putting on his winter coat and taking him for a walk, because, you know, he can't have an athletic dog mum without him being athletic himself. So we go on a nice long walk in the evenings.
All right. Very nice. Now, you mentioned you've got a trainer assigned to you that kind of controls your physical training.
Yes.
Do they control all aspects of your life? And I'm thinking about food. Like, do you sneak off for a hamburger or an ice cream, or is everything you do controlled?
No, it is pretty much controlled, but I think I'm at the stage where I'll have the hamburger or ice cream in front of my coach or in front of my team, because it would have been authorized in a way. So we do have moments in my training, especially working with a nutritionist, where I'm actually allowed to have what we call a cheat meal or a cheat day, which simply allows me to have as much sugar and sweet treats as I like, just because the majority of the time I'm eating relatively very, very healthy.
Yeah, no, I bet. Now, you hear kind of in the media, in athletics, and I'm thinking other sports as well, tennis and stuff, elite athletes might take a banned substance by mistake. You know, it could be in some medication or in some food.
Yeah.
Does that kind of thing worry you?
Definitely. I think it's just, I also have to remember, as an athlete, it's my responsibility to make sure that whatever I'm putting in my body is legal. And there are supplements out there that specifically say on the packaging that it's informed sport tested, and that simply means that it's gone through a sports lab, and it's basically okay for professional athletes to take, because they are aware of the banned substances that we're not allowed to take. So I think for myself, every kind of, the majority of the supplements that I take, I make sure that it has that label, but then all other natural products, then I'm kind of free to take.
All right. So you do take supplements. Elite athletes take supplements.
Yes, elite athletes most definitely take supplements and vitamins. For myself, I am a big Solgar favorite, only because I feel like their whole range just has, their whole line has a whole range of supplements, and it just allows me to kind of do like a one-stop shop rather than having to go to 3 or 4 different types of companies. It's just like, you know what, I can get my cod liver oil, my magnesium and all that kind of stuff from one place, and that just makes life easier for myself. Honestly, we like to keep things simple outside of the track.
Yeah. So we haven't got long. We've spoken about the physical side of things, the eating side of things.
Yes.
What about the kind of the motivation and the mind games sort of things? Now, do you kind of try and psych out your competitors, or is there no opportunity You know when you see boxers kind of squaring up at the weigh-in, is it a bit like that? You kind of snarl at each other.
Do you know what? Some people are like that. Myself, I don't know if they would call it or consider it as sizing up or anything, but I'm the smiley, happy one. I'm the one, if anything, you're just like, wait, is she not serious? Does she not take me serious or something like that? I like to keep a smile on my face as I'm warming up. And I just know that just kind of gives me confidence just to kind of show that no one's going to get to me. This is a great opportunity. We're in a stadium with thousands of people watching. Like, this is my Beyonce moment. I'm about to enjoy it.
Let's just have some fun.
Let's have some fun. Exactly.
Have you got any kind of habits that, you have to tie your shoelaces up in a certain way or do this, that? Otherwise you feel it's bad luck?
I try and stay away from the superstitions, but one thing that has remained the same is that at every competition or major championship, I always like to have like a pattern on my nails that has the color blue, and it's something that I've done since the age of 15 at every major championships, even the Olympics that I went to. Any kind of nail design that has the color blue, I kind of feel like it's given me success on the track, and so that's like a habit that I stick by, and a habit that I'll probably even wear at the British Championships next month.
Brilliant. Okay. Now, we've spoken about all kinds of things. What about, and this is something that I think is applicable to everybody, not just elite athletes.
Yeah.
Kind of self-doubt. Does that ever creep in? You're at the start line, you're smiling away.
Yes.
Thousands of people are watching you. Your mum and dad are in the crowd.
Yes.
Do you ever think, oh my goodness, what on earth am I doing here? I can't do this.
Honestly, I feel like that's very common in not just like professional athletes, but in everyday people's lives, and depending on what goals and stuff that they have. Exactly. And I'm here to let you know, even Olympians experience that. And I think it's just being able to kind of get to the root of it all and basically not put too much pressure and overstimulate yourself. And I feel like now, whenever I'm on the start line, I like to keep things as simple as possible. I like to take in the fact that I'm doing what I love. Doing what I enjoy, and just having confidence and trust in my preparation and training. So that was probably what would happen early on, but right now as I compete, I feel like more confident than ever on the start line.
Okay, excellent. And so this is probably an unfair question. I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you feel confident about getting selected for the Olympics?
Yeah, I would say that I have confidence in myself and my ability. And I think I'm just in a place of, if I give myself the best opportunity and if I do everything that I can, I've already won in a way. I've already mentally, I'm successful in a way. And I feel like I'll be unsuccessful if I stand on that start line knowing that I haven't prepared myself. But I think at this stage, I'm feeling very, very confident just in myself. And again, just wanting to do the best that I simply can.
Brilliant. All right. Well, look, it sounds like I don't need to really wish you good luck.
All luck is needed. You never know.
But I'm going to do it anyway. So good luck for the selection process. And I really hope we get to see your name up on the podium, see you up on the podium getting some medals. And so absolutely lovely to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time.
No, thank you for this conversation. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much to my guests on this week's show, and they were Dr. Robert Braun of Bristol Myers Squibb, Desiree Henry, sprinter. Thank you very much to you for listening, and have a healthy week until next week.
Thanks for listening to the Relax Back UK show. Join me, Mike Dilk, again next week for more fascinating interviews and chat. If you're listening to the podcast version, please subscribe, like, and share it with your family and friends. And have a healthy week until next week.